Hey everyone, Avros here, back again with the Final Fantasy XII game challenge, back again in Final Fantasy V. So, starting off here, we're going back to our hunt for the Earth Crystal. So we've gone back to the ruined town of Gom, and turns out that underneath the town was the ancient Ronka ruins, as we know, but for some reason they're now flying. So we need to go and consult our expert engineers for all mechanical weirdness and talk to Sid and Mid. So here we head back to Crescent Island to have a chat with them and find out what's going on. So as we arrive, Sid and Mid show up and we try and tell them there's an issue, but they already saw the ruins through the telescope take off into the sky. So they've been checking through their books and they know that the Earth Crystal is in the middle there, and that's what's causing the Ronkan ruins to fly. So considering that all the other crystals shattered after using machines that drained them of their power, if there's a machine up there draining the Earth Crystal, then that's a big problem for us, so we need to get up there and stop it. And to fly up higher, we need adamantite, as Sid and Mid have investigated there, and Galuf remembers that there's some adamantite in his meteorite. Avros questions whether or not he does remember, seeing as his memory's still not the best, but he remembers it clear as day. So our first stop for this episode here, on our way to go and save the Earth Crystal, which is our end goal by the end of this episode, is to head off to the meteorite that Galuf landed on over in Tycoon and recover the adamantite. So back into the airship, and here we are at the Tycoon meteorite, and come over here. Galuf remembers where the switch is to get inside, and in we go. And checking the back wall there, you can see that lovely purple adamantite there, and we grab it out of the wall. And Galuf mentions that he's got a pretty short memory, and Avros kind of jokes there, saying, how would he know he's an amnesiac? So on the way out, Avros gets to reprise his boss role of telling everybody to get prepared because something's coming, and our first boss fight of the episode here is the Adamantoise. So the Adamantoise, very straightforward boss fight, like a lot of ones we've had so far. Weak to ice-based magic, so exploiting that weakness and doing what you can against him is the name of the game here. Resists a lot of physical damage, so using stuff like Shiva, Blizzara, and El Blizzara Spellblade, which we have ready on Lena, will make very quick work of the Adamantoise there. So as you can see, Avros only doing 36 damage there with his disc, so not too much more we can really do on that one. And yeah, only a couple more spells to take care of the Adamantoise, and then we'll be on our way with our lovely Adamantite. So obviously the Adamantoise summoned by the Adamantite to try and defend it and keep it safe, seeing as we're taking it away. And that's it, fight's over, and we can be on our way to go and get our airship upgraded. So leaving the cave, we head back and run into Sid and Mid again and present them with the lovely purple adamantite, and they tell us to go and have a nap, take a break. They'll upgrade the airship, and so off we go. And a replay of this cutscene from earlier when they did some work on the ship, exactly the same cutscene. Play it again a second time, and Avros wakes up, has a weird dream the airship was already done, only for Sid and Mid to show up and say the airship's done. So we're all good to go and attack the floating ruins, only for them to realise in another book they found here in the Ronkan ruins that the city itself is equipped with a defence system, and very powerful cannons that we need to go and fight, so we need to be prepared for that one. So off we head. And onto the airship, yo ho ho and stuff, time to cast off. So off we head over to the Ronkan ruins after a quick pit stop in town to get some more gear and equipment. And I love this first fight as regular speed. These fights can be rocket launchers or flamethrowers. I think most of these ended up being rocket launchers for me. Only 2 enemies per fight. Very weak to thunder-based magic, with a very annoying attack called Rocket Punch that halves your HP and confuses the target. So Faris there is confused and will attack our party rather than the rocket launchers, unless we hit her with a physical attack to break the confusion. But not much point of that, we're just going to use Lena's Coral Sword there, which she's two-handing, which has an innate property of doing thunder damage, as well as Galuf's Rama Summon there to deal with the first round of rocket launches. So 4 of these fights for what's guarding the Ronkan Ruins here. You can see our lovely airship there flying in the background, and yeah, coming in here with a plan, having some decent thunder damage makes this very easy, and so we deal with the first few fights, heal up some potions here, and fly on over to the other side. And here's the flamethrowers, last 2 fights being rocket launchers. These are pretty much the same as rocket launcher, except they have the flamethrower attack, which is a blue magic spell that you can learn. Avros already knows it, so he doesn't learn it here, but not too much going on. We just power our way through, and Avros dies there with flamethrower, so just make sure we get him back up first. Don't want him to miss out on any EXP. And 3 out of the 4 down, 1 more to go, and we're into the ruins. So 3rd set of rocket launches. I notice I'm not really healing up Avros here. Not a big deal in these fights. I mean, either you die or you don't, with a lot of these. So just left him at low HP, and that's it. Fights are all done. They're happy that the defenses are all beaten up, only for I don't know how there's a rumbling in the sky, but apparently earthquakes, I guess. That's a big cannon that just popped out of the Ronkan Ruins, and everyone's pretty intimidated by the size of it, and I guess that's the last thing we need to take care of. But we're not going to do that straight away. We're going to just back off, heal up down in town again, and fly back up into the sky. And second boss fight of this episode, fairly rapid in this one, is the Soul Cannon. So the Soul Cannon here has 2 little launchers on it that you can't really see. You can target them individually to fight them off, but they're kind of blended into the boss's body, which is mildly annoying. And the launchers, you really want to take them out quickly. They have a very annoying attack there, which Lena and Galuf just got hit by, where they fire off these little rockets, and what happens with those is they afflict the status Old onto the target. And so what Old does is it severely cuts your strength, meaning it cuts your physical damage in battle, as well as lowers your party members' level progressively as the battle goes on, which lowers their combat effectiveness as well with both magic and physical attacks. So this fight can go south very quickly if you don't know to take out those launchers first. Once they're done, that's it. You don't have to worry about them anymore. It's just the Soul Cannon itself you need to deal with. Everything in this fight, same as the previous cannons, is weak to thunder damage, so you can deal with the cannon itself and the launchers quite effectively with thunder magic, and you can get rid of the old status there, as you saw Galuf do with Asuna. The downside to the old status is once it is removed as a status effect via Asuna, it doesn't actually get rid of what the old effect had actually already done by lowering your level, so you need to get it off as quick as possible, or else your level just stays where it was. So the quicker you get it off, the less level drop you have, the more damage you're going to retain. The longer you take, well, I mean, you could have a party member at level 1, and that would be very, very difficult to beat the Soul Cannon with. So, Galuf left Old there, and Lena, her physical damage being more in demand, we got rid of the Old off of her, and continued on with the Soul Cannon fight here. You would have noticed throughout this fight, the Soul Cannon's been putting stuff in all caps across the top, stuff about crosshair lights and stuff like that, and now it's actually firing the weapon that it's been charging this whole time, which is the Wave Cannon, which does a lot of damage to the party, killing both Lena and Galuf here, and applying the sap status to Avros and Faris, which means they constantly lose HP slowly throughout the rest of this fight. At this point, the cannon returns to the start of its charging pattern and goes through the motions again of charging up another wave cannon. So this fight becomes sort of a race against time. You can heal your party up, try and keep their health topped up as best as possible, but anyone who survives the wave cannon will keep that sap status and keep losing health, meaning this fight can become very, very difficult very quickly, as you have a limited amount of resources as far as mana goes, or healing items like potions or high potions if you have any access to any at this point from either stealing or any other means. Also dying there did remove Lena's Thundara Spellblade, so I need to put that back on and two-hand that Coral Sword with the Spellblade into the Soul Cannon, trying to maximize the damage here. But that's about it as far as the Soul Cannon fight goes. Come in with a game plan, have lots of thunder damage you can deal. Stuff like Galuf's Rama there is a great example of powerful damage to output on the Soul Cannon, and keep your party topped up on health, and eventually it will just explode. And there goes the Soul Cannon, and the party gets their EXP and some Dark Matter, and we're all good to go to head in. And yeah, as they figure where the cannon blew up, there's a nice lovely hole now into the Ronkan Ruins, but we're going to back off first to get some more HP, fly our way back up, and go ahead and head inside. So once we get inside though, skipping ahead to the end of the dungeon, here's King Tycoon, and as it says, the damned Clapper Claw, which is an interesting insult, is blocking the path, and King Tycoon tells everyone to shut up, there's no time to talk. The beast is a guardian of the ruins and can change its weakness at will, which we'll cover in a second, so it tells us to take care of it, make ourselves useful. And here is the boss fight against the Archaeoavis. This is the first boss fight I've had to actually speed up in these episodes, because this is a long fight. So the thing with Archaeoavis is, as King Tycoon so helpfully informed us, it changes its elemental properties throughout this entire fight. The way Final Fantasy V manages this is actually kind of an interesting technical programming side thing of the game. It can't actually switch monsters in combat. So what's actually happening here is you're actually killing 5 separate Archaeoavis. It doesn't look like it because it's replaced without the model disappearing, but the code in the background replaces it with a different monster once you get it past certain HP thresholds. So this boss has 8,900 HP total. The first 4 forms each have 1,600, and the last one has 2,500. So you can see it cast Frost there, which means we're actually past the first form. But the thing with this that's annoying is the first form has 1,600 HP, is weak to wind, and has the attack Breathwing, which causes the sap status and does lots of damage to the whole party. Once it's dead, the next one actually absorbs ice damage. So if you're using any sort of ice spell blade, Shiva summon, anything like that, it'll actually heal itself when you try and damage it. So you need to keep track of its actual stage it's at and what elemental weakness it has, or else you'll heal the boss, making this fight go even longer. So you might think to yourself at that point, well, okay, magic's not really an option. Why are you sitting here casting Rama? Why are you throwing, you know, Thunder Spell laid at it and everything like that? But you'll notice, if you've been paying attention, and even if you haven't, I'm going to point it out now so you'll notice it next time it happens, that Avros is doing nothing in this fight, basically. I mean, that attack missed, but the last attack was about 126. There's a few attacks in there that have been below 100 damage, and that's because the Archaeoavis has a lot of physical defense, like an excessive amount of physical defense, and just hit there with a thunder attack and healed it with Lena, so we're almost done with the elemental forms at this point. Yeah, so it has huge physical defense, and only really takes damage from elemental spells, and you're having to keep track of what weakness it has. So this fight just goes for a long time. The 4 forms it goes through, just to list them off quickly, like I said, the first one is Wind Weakness with Breathwing, the second one absorbs ice and has the attack Frost, which it used earlier, the third form is Fire Absorb and has Blaze, the fourth form Lightning Absorbs and has the Lightning attack, and then the final form, which it will be getting into in a moment, and King Tycoon will let us know, and it's kind of obvious when it hits the final form, is actually finally weak to physical damage. So first 4 forms throw spells, and once this happens, you can see there it actually died and was revived itself. This is the 5th form with 2,500 HP. King Tycoon admires its energy and says this is the true power of the crystals. There's only really one left intact, so I think this would be true power of the crystal, if anything, but there you go. At this point, it absorbs a lot more magic, and doesn't actually get healed, but takes significantly less damage from magic now, but takes a lot more damage from physical attacks. You can actually see there that it's at the point where it takes no damage from magic at all. So now we move into phase 2, which is beat it down as quickly as possible, heal up the party, and keep everyone healed up. Your only other options for this fight, besides spamming magic, keeping track of the weaknesses, and then beating the crap out of it at the end, is to use something like a Berserker with two-handed. Berserkers have a lot of damage, as we've talked about before, and with two-handed that damage goes up even higher, which is enough for it to sort of get past the defenses that the Archaeoavis has by default. Otherwise, you can use the Beastmaster class and use its capture ability to release monsters in this combat. Ronkan Knights from earlier in the dungeon do about 1500 damage when they're released. Mini Dragons from also the same place in the Ronkan Ruins will cast Holy when released. Some monsters when they're released will use special attacks, and so the Holy attack there deals about 2000 damage to this thing, making it quite a useful thing to use. Another thing you can go for if you've managed to learn it in the dungeon, which I hadn't at this point, is to use a Blue Mage and use the spell 1000 Needles, which commonly come from Cactuar in later games, and this more comes from Lamia and a few other creatures you can run into along the way. The upside of 1000 Needles is it always does 1000 damage. Doesn't care about defenses or anything like that, always 1000 damage, so that's a very handy way of making sure you're dealing consistent damage to Archaeoavis, and because it's a physical attack, can't technically ever be absorbed. So yeah, doing what I can here in this fight to try and keep everyone alive there. Galuf actually just got hit by an elixir from Faris to keep his health and mana up as high as possible so he can keep throwing out cures to keep the party alive. And we're relying pretty much entirely on Lena and Avros at this point to actually take out Archaeoavis and finish this fight off for us, so yeah, trying to use as much healing on Faris and Galuf as possible to keep everyone alive. And this is Avros' time to shine for once as the Thief class there. Not a huge damage dealer, but very handy to have the steal abilities for later in the game, so that's why he's been in that class for so long. And finally, at this point, sitting in the back row so he takes less damage, and throwing that disc, he's actually kind of become useful to a certain extent. Him constantly getting hit by Tusk and getting confused has been very unhelpful at this point, but between him and Lena, we do take out Archaeoavis, and that boss fight is over. One of the first sort of strategy requiring boss fights in the game. It's very annoying, so very happy to get past that one without too much trouble in this playthrough. So they decide to chase King Tycoon into the Earth Crystal Chamber and find out what's going on, and they assume, as they've been thinking for a while, that someone's controlling him, and Lena and Faris won't let Galuf and Avros do anything about it. They stand in the way, and Tycoon kind of admits that he's been being controlled and that he's not necessarily in control of himself and not doing the right thing, only for a meteorite to crash in the Ronkan Ruins, and this girl that Galuf keeps remembering, who calls him Grandpa, shows up and deals with Tycoon, only for Galuf to finally regain all of his memories and remember her name is Kryle. And yeah, Galuf's memories are fully back, Kryle's happy, and has missed him a bunch, so has decided to come and find out what was going on to help out. And yeah, she just hit King Tycoon with some thunder, so he's okay. And Tycoon recognizes Faris as his daughter Sarissa, the older of the two obviously, and everything looks fine, only for the Earth Crystal to shatter. I guess no one turned off the machine that was controlling it, which was the whole purpose of us coming here. So now we get this trippy lightning cutscene here, and this glowing light comes up and shows up in the Ronkan Ruins, and here it is, Exdeath. For the first time we've seen him, kind of got a weird helmet on there. He's happy to see Galuf because it means he's free, and for some reason, he has full control of the crystals and says to smite us. Avros steps up and says, yeah, we're not going to let you do what you want. And Exdeath just goes, well, crystals are all broken. Next is your world, Galuf. I'm going to peace out and leave the crystals to deal with you. So King Tycoon says that he's worried about what's going to happen with those crystals being under the control of Exdeath, and so commands the power of Earth to take his life force to restore its power, only for the crystals to attack him because they're still under Exdeath's control. And King Tycoon manages to break the spell by the looks of it, but collapses, and Lena and Faris are understandably distraught, and King Tycoon asks Avros to take care of them where he couldn't, and that's it. King Tycoon's died. A lot of this quest early on has been to chase him down and find out what was going on, only for him to lose his life here, and his crystals to go to Lena, and bestow us with the next 4 classes: Samurai, Dragoon, Dancer, and Chemist. Our last 4 classes we're going to get, so now we have to escape the ruins. Lena is unhappy to go. Here's a quick shot of the dungeon I went through off screen, and we make it to the airship, the ruins still blowing up around them, and Faris, being the captain, the one that knows how to fly, takes control of the airship, and the ruins crashes back down right over where it was originally, and that's the end of that. Lena's distraught that her dad's dead, and Avros goes to find out what's going on with Galuf, and he's like, well, I've got to get moving. He's remembered everything now. Exdeath's an evil warlock from his world, and 30 years ago he came to this world with the Dawn Warriors to seal Exdeath away and prevent him from taking over everything. And they took the meteors back to their world, and he came here on his meteor to find out what was going on, because something seemed wrong, and to stop Exdeath if there was a plot going on. And that it's Avros and his people's fault of their world for releasing Exdeath for abusing the crystals, but as Galuf said, they shouldn't have sealed him here in the first place, so now they've got to go back to their world to seal Exdeath once more, and they're going to go in through the meteorite and take the remaining energy, the last of the energy in the meteorites, to travel back to his world. So just him and Kral are going, and the rest of the party aren't. So at this point you might assume, well, the game's going to change over to Galuf and Kral's perspective to finish up, but we get stuck here with Avros and the rest of the gang. So Faris and Lena have been talking, and they want to avenge their father, and they need to go and back up Galuf because it is their fight to take out Exdeath. So they need to work out a way to get the meteorites powered up and warp to Galuf's world, and obviously they think of Sid again for anything to do, and go looking for him back at Tycho Meteorite. They've taken the Black Chocobo there, and Sid and Mid are here, and they find that a huge wave of power started flowing out from the adamantite, so they put it into the teleporter, and it absorbs the power of the meteorite and starts, charging it up. So they figure, well, I guess we better charge up the meteorites so they can teleport to Galuf's world and help them with the fight against Exdeath. So it's not going to change to Galuf and Kral's perspective, because we're going to find a way to get there with the rest of the party to back him up. So on the next episode, what we're going to be doing is visiting the other 3 meteorites to find out what we need to do to get the energy from them, and then head off to Galuf's world. So thank you for watching, and catch you in the next episode.